Most women will develop one or more uterine fibroids, benign smooth muscle tumors of the uterus, during their reproductive lifespan. In the United States, an estimated 26 million women between the ages of 15 and 50 have uterine fibroids. More than 15 million of them will experience associated symptoms or health concerns. A disproportionate number of black women are among those with symptoms, in part due to earlier age at onset of fibroids with larger and more numerous tumors. Welcome to another episode of Health and Wellness. I'm your host, Rosen Green. Stay with us as we explore this topic in more details and speak with an amazing woman who will be sharing her experience with uterine fibroids and how she's using that experience to empower others.
I am a gynecologist, but I'm also a husband and a father to 3 daughters. Uterine fibroids are extremely common and can cause a devastating effect on a woman's life. Heavy, painful periods with anemia, fatigue, and loss of productivity. These are some of the problems associated with uterine fibroids.
For years, I had uterine fibroids. In fact, my tummy went from supermodel flat to resembling that of a 6-month pregnant woman. I took control though and got treated.
I'm an housekeeper. I never thought it would happen to me. Then I found out that my dear sister has it. It doesn't matter where you come from. Don't sit and do nothing.
I assumed that fibroids only affected women in their late 30s and older, until I met a woman that was doing her 2nd surgery. She was only 26. Uterine fibroids affect women of all ages.
Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, you're watching Health and Wellness, and I'm your host, Rosen Green. And on today's show, we are focusing on the topic, uterine fibroids. And joining me today is Vanessa Siverls, who was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, has a background in performance theater, and has been fortunate to work at top brand companies such as the NFL, where she discovered her passion for people, development, and empowerment. In August of 2016, Vanessa received her MBA from Holt International Business School, where she studied with over 45 different nationalities. The Holt Impact Challenge gave Vanessa a platform to share her personal story of victory over uterine fibroids, which in turn inspired Vanessa to start her own company, BU Period, a lifestyle brand within the feminine hygiene industry to serve women who are undeserved and underrepresented. Welcome, Vanessa, to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a topic that is on a lot of persons' lips in terms of uterine fibroids. But when you hear that word, what does that mean to you?
When I hear, first, thank you for having me on the show. When I hear the term uterine fibroids, it brings up a lot of emotions. It brings up a lot of passion. It also sparks an energy in me to immediately jump in on the conversation in an active way or in an active listening way, so that I can make sure that I'm contributing something of my story so that someone can learn something, walk away with something. So, it's more of an opportunity. Now when I hear uterine fibroids, I think opportunity.
Let's go back a little bit. The day when you were told that you're diagnosed with uterine fibroids, take us through that experience.
Well, I was pretty healthy. My parents had me in sports throughout high school and after school. And for the first, I would say, 10 years after high school, I was fine. I was working out. I gave blood 3-4 times a year. I took pride in that. And at the time, I wasn't trying to have children with my ex-husband, but by the time I turned 28, something changed. The first thing that changed was I was told I could not give blood anymore, and I didn't know why. So they double tested me, and they said, "Sorry, you don't have enough blood." And I just thought maybe I didn't eat right, or maybe I needed rest.
Right.
But then later on that summer, I was at a barbecue and I had my cycle, and it was like any other cycle I've ever had. And I've had extreme pain since the age of 12, from onset.
Right.
But this one, it was different. And it lasted for 2 weeks. So when I went to my GYN, who I'd been going to for years, the first thing he said was, okay, we're going to have to take a sonogram of you. And I had never had that type of sonogram done before because I was deemed healthy.
Right.
Well, the sonogram came back with 4 uterine fibroids. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what he was talking about.
Wow.
But then he said, okay, I'm going to have to take some scrapings of your uterine lining. And he started using all this terminology and all this invasive.
Yeah.
So I said, hold on, wait a minute,
Right.
I'll be back. And I never went back because I needed to find out what the heck uterine fibroids were.
Correct.
And ever since, I've been on a quest to figure out this whole fibroid thing.
You didn't go back?
No. I found several GYNs until I actually found the one that I was comfortable with.
Right.
Not only comfortable with, at the same time that I had enough information so that I can actually have a two-way conversation.
Correct.
This time. Before, it was one way. I didn't like that feeling.
Right.
Once I had the information
Right.
for my own research,
Right.
I was able to have a two-way conversation, which made things easier for me.
Awesome. Talk to me about some of the conversation that you had with health professionals and just persons who you know are experiencing uterine fibroids.
Well, the very first conversation was, Mama, why you didn't tell me you had fibroids? That was the first one. Because I told her, she was like, oh, child, I got that. I'm like, when were you going to tell me?
Right.
She's like, oh, don't you know a lot of your family members have it? And no, I don't know. That would have been really nice.
Right, correct.
So, when you talk about conversation,
Right.
we need a lot of help in our community when it comes to sharing certain topics. As far as my friends were concerned, we were all around the same age, and the stat came true. The 1 out of 3 that you mentioned earlier,
Right.
it was about 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 of us started to notice the same symptoms.
Right.
And that is when we realized, all right, something's going on here. It's like, my best friend didn't have it, but our third best friend has it.
Correct.
That person's best friend didn't have it, but that person's best friend's cousin has it.
Wow.
So it was literally, you can connect the dots of Black women who were experiencing symptoms, but didn't say, I have uterine fibroids, because we didn't know.
Wow.
Then every time I went to doctors or clinics or health clinicians, I would say, listen, this is my story.
Right.
This is where I am now. This is how I'm managing.
Right.
What are my options?
Right, correct.
So it became an easier conversation to have the more information and knowledge that I had, even amongst my friends.
Right. Well, what has been the craziest treatment plan that someone suggests, like a health professional? What's the most far-fetched thing that you like, oh wow, that can't be an option?
Well, 2015, I used to work for the National Football League, and so at the Super Bowl, my body, after 10 years of management of the uterine fibroid, said, it's time. It gave up on me. I literally just started bleeding profusely, and I went home from Arizona, and it wouldn't stop, and I had to call the ambulance. First time ever that I had. That's when I knew. I was like, okay, something's up.
Right.
But when I got there, I guess they didn't hear me when I told them I've been managing for 10 years, because they said, okay, well, if you don't stop bleeding, we're just going to have to take the whole thing out. I said, take what whole thing out? Your uterus. I said, no, you're not. She says, yes, we will. You can't keep bleeding. She was looking at me as if I was crazy, as if, don't you want to stop bleeding? And I'm looking at her as if she's crazy. Like, don't you know that's not the only option? I kindly pulled up my pants and I left.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the craziest.
Well, that was the craziest.
That was the craziest.
Oh, wow.
Right then and there in the emergency room. No, thank you.
Right. Do you hear of other women who suggest that that's the first option that they suggest?
Yes. I know of several women who they go, one personal dear friend of mine went into the hospital one day because of a pain, came out the hospital 2 days later and said, oh, they removed something the size of a grapefruit. But I really don't know what happened. I don't know what was going on. They said I had a fibroid, so they just removed it. But she was not 100% sure. And she was an older woman. She was going into her menopause phase. Yeah. You know, it's on both sides.
Right.
And there's a lot of work that has to be done. I was on the show last season with Billy T. Martin, Women Are Talking.
Right,
and
correct.
Renee Brown has a website, thefibroidsproject.com, that explains a lot of new research that's being done with doctors, and that GYNs are coming together and they are noticing that it's a problem. It's a global issue, actually.
Wow, that's amazing. Because there's so much way we can speak about this. Because in terms of black women, it's affecting black women so much that we're in danger, and the education for it is just serious. But before we go to in more detail about this issue and also talk about your organization, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll give you more.
A fibroid is a benign tumour that mainly consists of muscular tissue and usually grows inside the uterus. Fibroids are also called myomas. Its size ranges widely from a small tumour the size of a pea to a large tumour almost the size of the uterus. Myomas are classified into 3 types depending on the location where they're found. The intramural myoma, a fibroid that grows in the muscular wall of the uterus. The subserosal myoma, a fibroid located just beneath the outside mucosal covering of the uterus. Here, the fibroid projects to the outside and occasionally remains connected with the uterus only through a small stalk. The submucosal myoma, a tumour that grows beneath the surface of the uterus lining. Therefore, this type of fibroid can grow in the uterine cavity. The actual causes of development of a fibroid are still unclear. However, it has been documented that fibroids are associated with high levels of estrogen, the female sex hormone. Fibroids can only develop during reproductive years of women. Following menopause, the production of estrogen decreases, which will usually cause fibroids to shrink or disappear. Myomas are more common in non-pregnant and infertile women. In general, fibroids are asymptomatic or associated with just a few complaints. If any complaints occur, then the location, size and type of the fibroid are the major factors. Fibroids can affect nearby structures. They can cause compression of the bladder, which may lead to urinary complaints, or may obstruct the intestine, which may result in constipation. Other complaints can be backaches, abdominal problems, menstrual flow disturbances. Fibroids can impede normal childbirth, which may require caesarean delivery. Fibroids relatively more often lead to miscarriages. Whenever fibroids cause symptoms, they need to be removed or shrinked. Medications sometimes cause fibroids to shrink by blocking the production and secretion of estrogen. In other cases, surgery may be required to remove the fibroid. The type of surgery depends on the location of the fibroid. Sometimes it's possible to remove the fibroid with the help of a tube entered through the vagina, and the procedure is called hysteroscopic myomectomy. In other cases, surgery through the abdominal wall may be necessary. In the case of a large fibroid, hysterectomy may be the only solution. This option only applies when there is no desire to have more children. Your general practitioner can give you more information about the disorder and its possible treatments.
Welcome back, and you're watching Health and Wellness. I'm your host, Roseanne Green. In case you're just joining us, we're talking with Vanessa Siverls. You have an awesome story, and you have made such a great impact or empowering people with your story. And before we went to the break, we're talking about in terms of race, ethnicity. Do you find that uterine fibroids affect more African-American women than other in terms of ethnicity?
Well, when I was doing my research, yes, the numbers suggested the 1 out of 7 that are in America are across all races, but from the 1 out of 7, 1 out of 3. And when I I was doing research for this business, I did live face-to-face market research in Oakland, California, to people, women who I just walked up to in the streets, and literally, I mean, the stats hit me straight in my face. I was looking for 1 out of 4, or maybe 1 out of 5. It was literally 1 out of 3, story after story. But they didn't say that they had uterine fibroids. They gave the symptoms. So I didn't ask them, get too personal. Do you have uterine fibroids? It's like, would you mind sharing with me how you manage your monthly cycle? I'm doing a study. And literally, it took me back, because what they were telling me was literally what I experienced for 10 years.
Wow, wow. And you graduated. Congratulations.
Thank
with
you.
your master's.
I got my MBA. Yes, I'm so excited, happy.
We're excited because we're seeing where you're empowering people. And that's an awesome thing. Talk to us about that experience and how it has changed your life in starting the BU period.
Wow. Well, my surgery for my myomectomy was a year ago. Was in April 2015, and as I was recovering, I took the full 6 weeks to recover. I started jotting down different ideas about helping women who were like me manage. And then I went back to work. I put it on the shelf, and but then work ended. My 11-year career at the NFL ended. My father, the first thing he said, Vanessa, go get your MBA. I think it's time. I was like, all right, Dad, you're right. I think you're right. So I packed 2 bags. I got accepted to Holt International Business School. And I had an option for Shanghai, London, Dubai, Boston, and California. I said, it's time for a change. Packed up my bags, went to California. I hadn't been in school in years, but I walked into a colorful, awesome, diverse situation.
Beautiful.
Over 45 different nationalities at just that campus, the San Francisco campus. And I've learned so much. Just forget academics. Just on the social level, on problem solving, on engaging with different perspectives and different viewpoints. And I was called for a teamwork project called the HIC, Holt Impact Challenge. We had to start a business from scratch, and we were going to be graded on this. And a couple of young Indian girls walked up to me. One was from South India, Chennai. One was from Northern India. They were like, what are you doing? I said, well, I've got this idea. And they were like, okay, we'll get back to you. Then they came back, and one of them said, actually, I have that same issue. So maybe we should do something. And my team, I had 3 Indians and 1 South Korean, and I learned so much from them. And we helped build this executive summary about this idea of putting together a social enterprise to help women who have issues managing their cycles. And we got a high pass. So grateful. But we were very transparent with the business planning. So amongst the students, everyone was like, oh, great idea. Oh, yes, great idea. Oh, by the way, my friend has this issue. Oh, my mom, she uses an iron on her stomach. Oh, and I used to use these seeds back in India, and I would pop the seeds, and it would help us. And, oh, it's not talked about in my country. And next thing you know, I'm hearing all of this stuff. I'm like, okay. There's some backbone. There's some meat here that we can work with. And I was inspired that other people were inspired. And my intern now, Priscilla Munger, who is working with BU Period, she looked at me and said, I met her in Dubai. I transferred from San Francisco to Dubai and said, I want to intern for you. I love what you're doing. I believe in what you're doing. And when she said that combined with the fact that it took me 2 weeks to fill out a job application, I knew at that point, that's it, baby. It's time for you to work for yourself. So the inspiration of other people for BU Period, plus my inspiration to just go out there and empower other people as much as I can, take it to a business professional platform. I mean, I can't think of anything else better to do than that. And using my story. It's authentic. I can relate to it. And I think I have a sensitivity, availability for women and guys as well who may be going through it with their significant others or sisters or mothers. I want to be that voice. I feel like I have the right story that would align with other people's stories.
Talking about in terms of support when going through something like this, as from your recommendation and your experience, do persons need that support of other person's understanding what you're going through. How important is that?
It's very important. And the very first form of support is active listening.
Right.
That was where, unfortunately, my first set of doctors failed. If you can help a woman figure out what's going on, if she can put language to that, if she can put a voice to that, use her voice,
Right.
it's out.
Right.
But you got to give her the time to do it. You got to really read behind the lines and help her get so that you guys can come in between, meet in the middle, and have a real two-way conversation. I always go back to that. And that comes within your household, that comes within your friend circle. And what we have to really work on is at the workplace. The hardest thing to do is to call your boss and say, yeah, Aunt Flo is here. Who? My P. Diddy. What? The rapper? Well, it's just not a good time. Really, again, this is the second time this month. It's been going on for the past 3 years. We need to have it. So there's got to be a level of sensitivity, and that comes with awareness.
Right.
So that support on your work, if you're staying home twice a week, maybe arranging for a more flexible work schedule.
Right.
If you have children, you do it. If you're caring for elderly, you do it. If you're caring for yourself, you should be able to do it as well. Amongst your friends, your circle of friends, sharing with them, because you never know. We are all 3 degrees of separation away from another person who has it. So the more you share information, the more you actively listen, the more you're willing to receive awareness, I think that's going to help on the support. So with BU Period, my very first service, because this business is a service first, is to provide that social platform when women can actually share and exchange and just feel comfortable and have a... And then we'll work on the next levels for products and services. Yeah.
When is it the right time to speak about it to your daughters? Especially, is a specific time just the right time? Or is it too early at a teenage girl age to speak about this issue? Especially if you have that trend within the family.
I got my first period when I was 12 years old. I didn't know what was going on. I ran to the bathroom. I still didn't know what was going on. I got hot, I got cold, and these immense pain hit me, and I'm just like, Mom? She sat me on the couch. She gave me a pill, a cup of tea, half a toast. She put a pillow on my back. She sat with me, literally forced me to eat. I didn't want to eat. She made me eat. 30 minutes later, she put me to bed. I woke up. I was fine. She didn't say a word. She didn't say anything. It was her care and her moment in that moment. The only added, when I felt better, when I woke up the next morning, would be, look here, baby, we need to have a talk. So that's when, literally day one, if you're a minority girl, baby, you may be 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 7. But let's work together so that we can work on some preventative management, just in case. You never know. Maybe we could beat this thing. Maybe we could get ahead of it. But you and some of your friends are going to go through something that is not life-threatening, it's lifestyle-threatening. So let's work on your lifestyle now. Day one.
Wow. Do you get stories of persons who they're saying have severe pains, that have severe from day one, but yet they haven't had uterine fibroids, or is that still coming, or still in the process? Do you find that some persons don't have the pain, but they do?
Yes, because extreme pain and excessive bleeding can be caused by several elements. There's endometriosis, there's uterine cancer, there's just things that are unexplainable. Well, we know that stress, regardless of what you have, certain amounts of stress in your life makes things 10 times worse than what they already are. So I was very fortunate. Prior to surgery, I relieved myself of every symptom. No pain. I never knew when it was coming. I had no breast tenderness, no bloating. I had to make sure I had my calendar ready, because that is the only way that I knew. And that was only because I did a holistic lifestyle change. I took myself off the grid and slowly reintroduced the things that benefited me, that made me happy. And the only things left were the fibroid. So now, when you take out the fibroid, and the rest of me has already figured out the lifestyle that's good for Vanessa, I'm good to go. And that is what I share with other women. I've been helping my friends for the past 10, 15 years, before we even knew what fibroids was. I literally did what my mom did for me. We'll be in the village somewhere walking. They're like, oh my God, my stomach. Oh girl, I think it's my period. I'm like, hold on. I'll get tea, chamomile preferred, honey, a Motrin, and we would sit down with a bagel. And 30 minutes later, they're like, girl, that worked. I'm like, I know it worked. Right. But the conversations don't go on beyond that.
Right. Oh, wow. Beautiful. And as we close, for persons who want to speak to you more on this topic, how can they contact you? Oh,
BU, period. B as in boy, U as in Uganda.
Right.
Period.
Right.
PERIOD at gmail.com. We're on Facebook as well, Twitter and Instagram. And I am so happy to announce that we just incorporated as a public benefit corporation. And our website will be up and running by the end of the month, BUperiod.com. By October 30th, BUperiod.com. Come, share, explore, listen, or just observe.
Wow. Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for
joining
us on the program. Very interesting conversation. And for our viewers who are watching, the conversation will continue. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Health and Wellness. Stay well.
Uterine fibroid embolization is a minimally invasive procedure. UFE does not remove the uterus or the ovaries. A small incision is made in the leg to gain access to the femoral artery. A long flexible tube called a catheter is then inserted into the femoral artery. It is guided up the femoral artery and into the artery that supplies blood to the uterus, called the uterine artery. The catheter is then guided to smaller arteries that supply blood to the fibroids. Uterine fibroid embolization delivers tiny microspheres to the artery that supplies the fibroids, cutting off the blood flow, causing the fibroids to shrink. The tiny microspheres are injected through the catheter and travel through the blood vessel. Since the microspheres are more than 60 times larger than red blood cells, they plug the tiny vessels that red blood cells travel through to feed the fibroid. The procedure is repeated in the uterine artery on the other side to make sure that all blood supply to the fibroids has been cut off. All fibroids are treated simultaneously. Once the blood supply to the fibroids has been blocked, the fibroids begin to shrink. There is no scar tissue and minimal blood loss with UFE. Recurrence of the fibroids with uterine fibroid embolization is rare. Most women are able to return to light activity within a few days of the UFE treatment and are usually back to work and normal activity, on average, within 11 days. Take back your life today. Ask your doctor if uterine fibroid embolization is the right treatment for you.